Okay, let's talk about a goal that, well, it really captures the imagination, doesn't it? Becoming a millionaire.
It's a huge dream for so many people.
Yeah, this massive aspiration, but it often feels, I don't know, associated with just huge success, maybe luck.
Right, or something totally out of reach for most people. There's a lot of noise around it.
A ton of myths, definitely a lot of confusion. You wonder, is it just for the super rich? Or inheritance? What does it actually take?
Exactly. And the common idea, it's often so far from how most millionaires really build their wealth.
There's a surprising truth sort of hidden behind those flashy stereotypes.
There really is.
And uncovering that truth, well, that's what we're aiming for in this deep dive. We've been digging into some really insightful source material.
Yeah, specifically looking at key takeaways from the Baby Steps Millionaire book and also the data from the National Study of Millionaires.
Right. So our mission today is basically to cut through all the guesswork, all the noise, and pull out the most important nuggets from these sources to give you, our listener, a clear, proven path.
It's not some get-rich-quick thing, obviously.
No, not at all. It's about understanding the specific actions, the consistent discipline
Right.
that thousands of, well, ordinary people have used, according to this research. It's about looking at the actual behaviors and steps that lead to building real net worth.
So let's start with that core idea from the sources. Becoming a millionaire, it's absolutely possible for ordinary folks.
That's the foundation.
But first things first, what do the sources even mean by millionaire? Are we talking high income, fancy cars?
No, they're really clear on this. It's defined by net worth.
Okay, net worth.
Yeah, so that's basically everything you own, your house value, investments, savings, cash minus everything you owe, your debts.
So assets minus liabilities.
Exactly. If that number hits $1 million or more, you fit the definition they're using. It's not about your paycheck size or spending habits.
It's about what you've accumulated and kept.
That's a really important distinction. And the sources make a point that kind of shatters the popular story about how people get there. It's not mostly inheritance, is it?
That was one of the most, frankly, stunning findings from the national study. A huge number, 79% of the millionaires they surveyed got zero inheritance.
Wow, zero.
Zero. Think about that. These are overwhelmingly people who started, pretty much from scratch, self-made.
79% with zero inheritance. That stat alone just floors me. It tells you right away this isn't some exclusive club you have to be born into.
Absolutely.
So if it's not inheritance, not just luck, what is it then? The sources seem to point to a very specific roadmap.
They really do. Both the book and the study, they focus on what they call the baby steps.
Okay.
It's presented as this systematic, proven plan that these self-made millionaires followed. The sources actually call it the shortest, surest path to building wealth.
Surest. Not necessarily fastest, but reliable if you stick to it.
That's the implication, yeah. And the study even gives a time frame, right?
Yeah, what did it find on average?
For those in this study who followed a plan, the average time it took to become a millionaire was about 17 years.
17 years.
But, and this is important, that clock often starts after someone gets really focused and commits to a disciplined plan.
So maybe some years drifting before that, then 17 years of intense focus.
Kind of, yeah. Once they locked onto a plan like the baby steps, the journey averaged around that 17-year mark.
And the sources, they're just full of stories, aren't they? People who started in really tough spots but made it work using this plan.
Oh, absolutely. They mentioned Tiffany, a single mom deep in debt. John and Maddie, starting with over $300,000 in non-mortgage debt.
Wow.
Or Webster, who had a learning disability, started later in life, but still got there.
It really shows that your starting point isn't the main thing. It's the plan and sticking with it.
Exactly. Background isn't destiny. Behavior is. That's the message.
Okay, so let's dive into the actual plan, the nuts and bolts. These 7 baby steps, they're sequential. And the first 3, they're framed as a kind of sprint, right?
Yeah, a financial sprint. The focus there is immediate stability.
How so?
It's about intensely attacking debt to free up your income and building a basic safety net super fast. It definitely requires focus, some sacrifice even.
Okay, baby step 1. Save $1,000 for a starter emergency fund. Why 1,000 and why right at the beginning?
It's like a small cushion for life's little inevitable curveballs, what the sources call Murphy's Law.
Right, things just happen.
Exactly. A small car repair, a medical copay. That $1,000 is designed to handle those minor things without, totally wrecking your progress or making you reach for a credit card.
So it keeps small problems small.
Pretty much. The book uses that example of the woman whose tooth split needed an expensive extraction.
Ouch.
Yeah. The $1,000 didn't cover everything, but it was enough to avoid, say, a predatory loan, turned a potential crisis into just an inconvenience.
And the source is stress doing this one fast.
Super fast.
Yeah.
Like gazelle intensity, even if it means really buckling down temporarily.
Got it. Deal with Murphy first. Then what's baby step 2?
Baby step 2 is paying off all debt except the mortgage. This is where the real intensity kicks in.
All of it. Credit cards, car loans, student loans.
Everything but the house. Credit cards, car loans, student loans, medical bills, you name it. The whole point is to liberate your income.
Your biggest wealth-building tool, as they say.
Exactly. Every dollar that was going to creditors, now it's yours, working for your future wealth.
Okay, so debt's gone, except the mortgage. Then you move to baby step 3.
That's right. Baby step 3 is building your fully funded emergency fund.
The bigger one?
Yeah, 3 to 6 months of your bare minimum living expenses. This is your real financial protection.
For the big stuff.
For the big stuff. Job loss, major medical issue, huge home repair. This fund is what protects you, your family, and all the progress you've made.
So emergencies don't force you back into debt or make you sell investments at the wrong time.
Precisely. It provides real security.
And the sources give a time frame for these first 3 steps. The sprint.
Yeah, they mention that for many people really focused on the plan, completing steps 1, 2, and 3 often takes around 2.5 to 3 years.
But it can vary, right? Like Webster took longer.
Oh, absolutely. Depends on your income, how much debt you start with. Webster took 4.5 years. The key isn't the exact time, but the discipline and intensity during this phase.
Living like no one else now.
So later, you can live and give like no one else. That's the idea. And you have to do them in order. They build on each other.
Okay, so that's the sprint. Intense, foundational. Then you shift gears into the marathon phase, baby steps 4 through 7. What changes here?
The focus shifts, really, from just getting stable and out of crisis mode to actively building long-term wealth.
More intentionality, less sheer intensity.
Kind of. You can actually breathe a little, start budgeting for some fun things again, vacations, eating out. But crucially, you're using cash you've saved, not borrowing.
Makes sense. And baby step 4 seems like a huge engine for this marathon phase. Investing 15% of your pre-tax household income for retirement.
This is absolutely where serious wealth building kicks into high gear. And the study found something really critical here.
What's that?
It's the consistency of your investing your savings rate that accounts for something like 80 to 100% of your long-term success.
Really? Not picking the perfect stock or timing the market?
Nope. The data from thousands of millionaires points squarely at consistency, just regularly putting that money to work over many years. That's the superpower.
That's actually really encouraging. Take some pressure off being a market genius.
It really does. The sources use this example. Joe and Susie, average income, say $65,000.
Okay.
If they start investing just 15%, it's at about $800 a month, maybe at age 35. They get a pretty standard 10% average return.
Which historically lets money double about every 7 years, right?
Roughly, yeah. Well, by age 65, just through consistent saving and compound growth, they could have around $1.8 million.
On an average income, just by being consistent.
Exactly. It shows it's achievable. And remember Webster. Started later, still made it because he was diligent with this step.
But what about those huge curveballs, even in the marathon phase? The sources mention things like needing a new roof, HVAC, transmission all at once. That could wipe out the emergency fund.
And that's exactly what the fully funded emergency fund, step 3, is for. You use it.
So you drain the fund if needed.
You do. It hurts, sure, seeing that balance drop, but it protects your investments and keeps you debt-free. That's its job.
And then what?
If the fund gets hit hard by a big emergency, the advice is clear. Pause your investing, so pause baby step 4.
Sure.
And focus all your extra money on rebuilding that emergency fund back up to the 3-6 month level. Then you resume investing. Stability first.
Always back to stability. Okay, got it. What's baby step 5?
Baby step 5 is saving for your kids' college. The key here is doing it using a debt-free approach.
Avoiding those student loans.
For yourself and your kids, yes. The sources really advocate for cash-flowing education whenever possible.
Makes sense in the context of avoiding debt overall. And baby step 6.
Pay off the house early.
Get rid of the mortgage completely.
Yep. Remember that stat? 79% of the millionaires in the study had no mortgage. Getting rid of that massive monthly payment frees up incredible cash flow.
Which accelerates the final step, baby step 7.
Which is the ultimate goal, really. Build wealth and give generously.
This is the point of it all.
This is where you really experience the financial peace and freedom the plan offers. You can meet your family's needs, sure.
Yeah.
But also, you have the means to really make an impact through generosity, building a legacy.
Okay, so that's the plan. But the study also looked deeper, right, at the actual behaviors, the mindsets of these millionaires.
It did, and found several common traits that really make the baby steps work. A huge one is just this deep aversion to debt.
Not just getting out of it, but avoiding it altogether.
Exactly. The study showed they were way more likely to avoid debt their whole lives, not just after getting wealthy. Like 73% never carried credit card debt.
73%. Never.
Never. 96% never paid a utility bill late. Significantly less likely to have student loans than the general population.
Yeah.
It was a lifestyle before they hit millionaire status.
Wow, that's ingrained behavior. What else?
Another finding that really flips the script is frugality. Millionaires are often more frugal than average folks.
Really? Not spending wildly.
Not typically, no. The study had details like they spent considerably less on groceries each month, $412 versus the U.S. average of $582 then. And dining out. Two-thirds spent less than $300 a month. They tend to live below their means, even when their means grow significantly.
So the flashy millionaire stereotype is mostly just that, a stereotype.
Seems that way based on this large study, yeah.
How do they handle setbacks then, if they're frugal and debt-averse?
Well, the sources paint them as very proactive. They're planners, goal setters. They have this resilient growth mindset.
Seeing challenges as opportunities.
Pretty much. They show amazing perseverance. The book uses that great analogy of the cross-country skier, Simon Kruger.
Oh, yeah, the Olympics.
Yeah, he fell, broke his pole right at the start. Looked like it was over.
But he didn't quit.
He got up, got a new pole, caught up, and won gold. That kind of grit, that refusal to quit, that's characteristic.
And belief plays a big part, too, it seems.
Huge part. The study found millionaires score much higher on believing they control their own destiny, that internal locus of control.
Believing they can make it happen.
Right. The sources give examples like immigrant entrepreneurs being twice as likely to start businesses despite barriers, or Condoleezza Rice overcoming segregation. That belief fuels the perseverance needed to stick with the plan for, 17 years on average.
Okay, let's shift slightly. The sources also tackle some common, often negative ideas about wealth itself. Myths.
We do. The first big one is that wealth is somehow inherently evil.
Right, that money corrupts.
The sources argue, wealth is amoral. It's a tool, like a hammer.
A hammer can build or destroy.
Exactly. It's the user, the heart of the person, that determines the morality. What do you do with it? They share a story about getting a nice car, a Jaguar, after being broke for years, and emphasizing the car didn't change his character. The focus stayed on positive uses of resources.
So it's about the person, not the dollar amount. What's another myth they address?
The idea that unequal wealth is automatically unfair.
That's a common one, too.
The sources argue that while opportunity should be equal, unequal outcomes are pretty natural. Why? Because inputs aren't equal.
Things like effort, talent, risk.
Effort, talent, drive, risk-taking, the value you provide in the marketplace, these things vary widely. They use examples like grades in school. Unequal effort often leads to unequal grades, and we generally accept that as fair.
Or a business owner versus an employee.
Right. The owner takes more risk, offers a different service level. The outcome reflects that. It's not inherently unfair, according to this view.
And they add that global perspective, too.
Oh, yeah. Most Americans, even middle-class ones, are incredibly wealthy compared to the rest of the world. If the global top 1% starts at an income many Americans exceed, it changes the perspective on who is rich.
There's also that misconception, sometimes tied to religion, that the Bible, for example, condemns being wealthy.
The sources tackle that head-on, often using the story of the rich young ruler.
Right.
They explain that reading it in context shows it's not about condemning wealth itself, but about misplaced faith. The ruler trusted his riches more than Jesus.
So the issue was idolatry, not the money per se.
Exactly. The lesson is about putting faith first, not that money is inherently bad. Salvation isn't about being poor or rich. It's about faith.
Okay, so if wealth isn't evil or automatically unfair or condemned by faith, what is the real purpose of building it, according to these sources and millionaires?
It really comes back full circle to Baby Step 7. It's not just piling up money.
No.
It's about achieving financial peace.
Yeah.
That security, that control over your finances. It's about meeting your family's needs without stress.
And beyond that.
Critically, it's about having the freedom and the resources to be incredibly generous, to make a difference, leave a legacy. The sources share stories of quiet generosity.
Like Steve paying tuition anonymously.
Yeah, or Cheryl giving away cars, helping single moms with no fanfare. That's often the reality behind first-generation wealth.
But they also make a really important point about what money can't buy, even millions.
This is crucial for perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wealth solves money problems. It brings financial peace, which is huge,
Right.
but it absolutely cannot buy happiness
Mm.
or real love, true friendship, or, eternal security. The sources talk about that God-shaped vacuum.
Things only deeper connections or faith can fill.
Right. Material wealth just can't reach those places. So becoming a millionaire, a worthy goal for the peace and impact it allows. But it's not the ultimate goal of life itself.
That's a powerful balance. And they briefly mention passing these ideas on.
Yeah, teaching the next generation, especially since they might inherit wealth. They list 5 behaviors: work, give, save, spend, and steward.
Like commission, not allowance, for work.
Right, linking effort to earning. Giving first, like tithing. Practicing delayed gratification for saving and spending.
The 24-hour rule, maybe?
Things like that. And just the overall idea of being a good steward of resources, not just an owner.
This has been, wow, a really comprehensive look at what these sources show about building wealth. Not theory, but based on thousands who've done it.
It really cuts through the myths, doesn't it? The path shown here isn't luck or secrets.
No, it's a plan. Specific, sequential steps, the 7 baby steps.
Combined with those core habits, consistency, avoiding debt, living below your means, perseverance, belief.
And it's the get rich slow approach, basically.
Yeah.
But it works for ordinary people willing to do the work over time.
And maybe the most empowering message from all this, for you listening,
Yeah.
is that you can do this. Your background, where you are now, that's not the main barrier.
What is then?
You're primarily limited by the size of your hope and your willingness to actually follow a proven plan.
So let's leave everyone with this thought, kind of pulling it all together from the sources. If becoming a millionaire, according to the data, is less about income or luck and more about discipline, debt avoidance, frugality, generosity, legacy, and if even reaching that level doesn't buy ultimate happiness or fill those deeper needs, what does that suggest about how you might choose to define success, abundance, and, well, a truly rich life for yourself starting today?